So what is the most important thing that we need to pay attention to for Tesla? Is it the full self-driving and when they achieve that? While that is really important, it's not the most important thing. It's not the critical component. What's up, guys? Tesla is one of those once-in-a-lifetime generational companies that is going to be huge. But the question is, how big are they going to get? And what is going to drive most of that growth? Because they have many different segments within their business, from energy storage to potentially Robo Taxis to humanoid robots now to Dojo as a service, a bunch of different businesses and trillion-dollar industries all within one company. And not to mention, we have a bunch of different price ranges from ARK Invest at $3,000 a share in 2025 to $10,000 a share by 2030 for other YouTube analysts, and even as high as $50,000, $100,000 a share in 2030. So what is going to drive all this growth? Now, all of them have the potential to drive a lot of growth and be multi-trillion-dollar industries, but which one am I most focused on, and what's the most important piece to focus on in order to keep that competitive edge and make sure that they achieve maybe a $50,000 stock price in 2030? For me, I believe that is going to be the Robo Taxi network. Humanoid robot does have the potential to be just as big, maybe even bigger. But right now, we don't have enough information for me to really figure out what kind of business model or use case Tesla is going to use with that. Is it going to be a one-time sale, a subscription service? Not sure yet. But I do know full self-driving is going to be huge, and that's going to lead to the robo-taxi model, which is going to be bigger than the energy side of the business, which will be massive in and of its own. So what is the most important thing that we need to pay attention to for Tesla? Is it the full self-driving and when they achieve that? While that is really important, it's not the most important thing. It's not the critical component. The critical key component that is going to make Tesla a $50,000 company is their ability to keep their costs down low. And they do this through a number of ways, from vertical integration to their batteries with the 4680 cells, making a million-mile lifespan batteries, the one-piece gigacasting press from Idra. They have a multitude of ways of trying to figure out how can they be the most efficient and cost-effective producer out there. And Elon Musk has even said himself that he doesn't believe full self-driving in and of itself is going to be the competitive edge that Tesla will have. He says it's going to be manufacturing, and he always emphasizes how hard manufacturing is. But I want to put it into perspective why he's saying that, what the deal is. Now, if we look at, okay, why isn't it full self-driving? Which is what we're going to look at first before we get into why it is the production side of the business and manufacturing. Why it's not full self-driving is, one, Elon Musk believes full self-driving will become just a regularized commodity in the future. How? Well, we know that there's other companies out there that will probably achieve full self-driving, and they're using LiDAR and radar and all these other methods for training. Will they be as good as Tesla? Will they be as cost-effective as Tesla? By the current methods that they're using, no. Right? They're using LiDAR, they're using radar right off the bat. That's way more expensive. Are they going to be as good as Tesla without as much data as them? Probably not. So I don't know if Elon Musk is saying that other companies will achieve it and be as good as Tesla, or if he's saying, hey, other companies will achieve it and they'll be 2 times better, 2 times safer than a human driver, but Tesla's going to be 10 times better and 10 times safer. Either way, Tesla has said that they're willing to license out their FSD once it's ready and let other companies use it. They're not just going to hoard it for themselves. So either way, there is a possibility for other companies to have full self-driving that is as good as Tesla. So how does Tesla still win over in the robo-taxi model to where they're the winner take most, if not the winner take all? How do they do that? And that comes down to their costs, right? Because right now, it doesn't, like Uber and Lyft are basically the same business model that robo taxis would be. And they're charging $2 to $3 per mile, and they're not even a profitable company. Why is that? It's because their cost per mile is $2 to $3 per mile. And also because it's not a huge market, because it's still cheaper to own your own car than it is to ride in an Uber or a Lyft. So how do robo-taxis take over and become this massive 30, 40, 50 trillion dollar industry? It's by getting their costs down extremely low, right? Number one, Tesla can come in and just charge a little bit less than Uber and Lyft. They could charge $1.50 to $2.50 a mile, take all of Uber and Lyft's customers and increase demand since they just lowered the prices. So now it's an even bigger market, but they'll actually be super profitable on all of that because their cost per mile is not $1 or $2 a mile. In fact, it was 18 cents a mile when they came out with their autonomy day. But we're going to talk about later in this video what they could potentially get their cost per mile down to through all of their manufacturing capabilities. Okay, so now they can have a huge segment of that market, but that's not what's going to get you to 30, 40, 50 trillion dollar company. How you get there is by truly revolutionizing the world to where most people ride in robotaxis don't even own a car. Well, in order to get there, you have to get the cost for robotaxis to be less than the cost of owning a car. We know that the average cost to own a car in the US is about 70 cents a mile. So even getting robotaxis down to 60, 65 cents a mile, sure, it's going to have a huge demand, but some people might still find the convenience of having their own car greater when it's about at par in cost. So truly how we get there is when we get costs down to like 35, 25 cents a mile. That's when people start switching over. That's when people who aren't driving today because they can't afford 70 cents a mile, but they can afford 25 cents a mile. That's when you're unlocking demand that doesn't even exist today. When you get down to 25 cents a mile, that's when you start getting people switching over saying, well, if I can save $5,000 a year by not owning a car, I'm jumping over. And for most of the people in the world, or at least in the US, who make $50,000 a year on average, an extra $5,000 after taxes saved is huge. That's a big difference. And a lot of people will jump at that opportunity. So that's ultimately how they're going to get there. Now, the important part is, are they still profitable at that? Well, we know they're at least 18 cents a mile from autonomy day. But ultimately, they'll be able to get their costs down even lower when they're producing this new $25,000 compact car in 2023. So if they're selling it for $25,000, we can assume their cost initially is going to be somewhere in the low 20s, probably 20, 21, 22 or something. And we know that with Wright's law, as they produce more and it doubles, their cost to produce that car is going to decrease around 15% on average for every doubling of cumulative units produced. We know that they're going to produce these compact cars in massive scale because they're going to be fulfilling the robotaxi role. And so they'll probably ultimately get their cost down to as low as maybe $15,000 per unit. And $15,000 per unit over a 1,000,000 mile lifespan is 1.5 cents per mile for depreciation cost. And then you can factor in your maintenance, your tires, repairs, energy service, energy costs, which another advantage that Tesla has for energy costs is they have all these superchargers, they have all these storage packs, mega packs, power walls. So they're probably going to have a competitive advantage not only in their cost of producing their cars, they're also going to have a competitive advantage in their energy compared to other companies. And they also just build their cars much better. Sure, another company might be able to produce a $15,000 car, but I'm not convinced that another company will produce a $15,000 car that is going to be as efficient, as effective, as good, as safe as any Tesla will be. It's going to be cheaper, it's not going to be as safe, as reliable, it probably won't go 1,000,000 miles. So no car is going to be as good and as cheap as a Tesla out there. This is going to give Tesla a massive competitive advantage because even if another company comes out there and they're able to also charge 25 cents a mile, they're probably not making as much money. Maybe their cost per mile is 20 cents a mile. And all Tesla has to do is just drop their cost per ride down to 20 cents a mile. The other company's going out of business because now they're not making a profit. And Tesla's still making a killing of a profit around a 5 or 7 cents cost per mile in the long run. So that is a huge competitive advantage for Tesla. And the reason why that's so much more important than full self-driving is because even if full self-driving never happens and we don't get to this robotaxi model, Tesla being able to get their costs down so low, right? Being able to, this Wright's law working in their favor, their 4680 cells, producing these reliable cars that go 1,000,000 miles, producing more efficient cars where they're able to get the same amount of range with half the battery pack size as other companies are using. This is going to allow Tesla to still be a 10x company in and of itself, just with the traditional car model of just selling cars because they're able to create the best cars out there that have so much demand, and they're able to have a really good profit margin on these cars because they're so good at manufacturing. This is what's going to allow Tesla to still be a 10x company, even if full self-driving and robotaxis never happens, even excluding the energy storage business, even excluding AI as a software and all of these things. This is the core competitive advantage. So Guys, let me know down in the comments below, what do you agree with, what do you disagree with? I'm always trying to learn and improve. So yeah, and let me know what you want to see in the next video or what you want me to touch on more.